was a member of the staff of the Police Service Commission that was humiliated and put on indefinite suspension without salary, and his life was even threatened for revealing things that were going on in the Police Service Commission. So how would the whistleblowers, now that the legislation has not come through, be protected?
Well, I agree with you that as long as the whistleblowers protection law has not been passed to law, anybody who gives information that leads to a prosecution of any agency or individual cannot be protected by law for giving out the information. But don't forget, we have extant laws. We have laws that regulate defamation of character. If, for example, Mr. A gives an information to EFCC about politician B, and the information turns out to be an information that defames the character of that person, without anything, that politician by law can sue Mr. A for giving information that has led to the defamation of his character. Now, until and unless the protection law is passed into law, the people who bring the information, otherwise called the whistleblowers, might not be necessarily protected by law. So what we need to find out is, what does the finance ministry or any agency of the government intends to do about the source of the information? Do they intend to receive the information by putting an anonymous indication on people who bring the information? That will be a problem in law when you do that, because if you bring an information, remember when you're fighting a case in court and you are trying to tender an evidence to give credibility to the testimony, the source of the information is material. And is the person required by law to, for example, swear to an affidavit that the information is given is verified and is true, so that if anything happens, then he has lied under oath? Or does he just give the information and stay anonymous? So these are the details that I believe that not just the finance ministry but any agency of the government will have to look at. But in a nutshell, until the law is passed, the whistleblowers are not protected by law, especially if the information they give also infringe on the right of that person for whom the information was given against.
Okay,
so
Mr. Boala,
it's a double-edged sword, it would seem. And much as, yes, you say that this is a good policy, but at the same time, there are also very huge setbacks that would have that could have disincentives for people who want to blow the whistle. Yeah. Let's look at the incentive that the federal government is offering, 5% of whatever is recovered. One of the issues that Mr. Adigboro raised is, how is that going to work? I mean, when we look at how long it takes for prosecutions to happen in this country, what's the guarantee that you're going to be getting any 5% at the end of the day, especially when you see that there's no protection for the person who's giving the information?
Right. There are quite a number of issues. Number one is whether at the time you turn out the information, you create a contract between you and the agency of the government, which, for example, if they fail to give you the 5%, you can sue them in court. So whether that is actionable in law, whether that information creates a contract in law is a different ballgame. We have to look further on that. And then secondly, we also need to find out whether the percent, because any money recovered by an agency of the government that belongs to the Federal Republic of Nigeria goes to the coffers of government and cannot be used by the executive unless it is appropriated by the National Assembly. Is it appropriated? Is it captured in the budget? If these things are not taken care of, then any act of any agency of the government to give any form of percentage to individuals who blow the whistle may be unlawful in law.
So there are even issues on that end as well.
Right.
It looks a little more complicated. So how do you think then that they can effect this 5% and make this incentive a true incentive? Because the idea is supposed to be give incentive to people to squeal and say what is going on that otherwise. Because there's another caveat that this information must be information that government would not have been able to get by itself ordinarily. How does one begin to prove that?
And to be honest with you, that is the part I have a problem with, because we are likely going to find ourselves in a situation where whistleblowers are going to one day turn up and call the government 419. Because when you bring that information, the government will show to you that they have the facilities to obtain that information. In fact, like in some cases where the police will say anybody who gives an information leading to the arrest of an individual will be given certain incentive. In most cases, people don't turn out, because the minute you go forward to give any information, before you know, you are they probably turn you to become a suspect. just because they want to avoid giving you what they promised they are going to give you. So there is actually, in my opinion, there is going to be a problem with the implementation of the 5%. But if, for example, it is not whistleblowing, but any other services that you render to agency of the government, we can say safely that the federal government can easily give that percentage if that action is covered by law. The most important thing is whether the policy of the government is supported by law. First, I believe that the finance ministry and any other agency of government that is coming up with this proposal, they have gone ahead of time. And the idea is that they are giving information to the masses to have an understanding of what the government intends to do, hoping that before these things are actualized, that bill, as it were, would have been passed into law. But unless it is passed into law, you may not enjoy the benefit. Because you see, the whistleblowing law or protection bill that you see, it is not just a straitjacketed bill. You have to explain what you mean by whistleblowing. You have to explain in the act the procedure for bringing information that will lead, credible information that the government is interested. You have to talk about what type or kind of protection that the person is entitled to. You have to also bring in this issue of whatever percentage you want to give. Unless these things are properly done and passed into law, I do not think that the federal government will achieve much.
How confident are you that that whistleblowers protection bill will do well at the National Assembly?
That's where the problem is, because we have a lot of bills in the National Assembly that one would have thought by now it is law in Nigeria. But as long as the members of the National Assembly are not interested in any act, any law, you will not find it passed. We have a competition bill. We have an antitrust bill. We have a lot of these bills in the National Assembly which has not, we have petroleum industry bill. It has not been passed to law. So this one will depend on whether the members of the House, the National Assembly are interested at all. If they are interested, I believe strongly that it will be passed into law.
Well, it's a shame that we could not talk about the Senate's rejection of the acting chair of the EFCC, but I believe that subsequently we'll be able to touch that. Mr. Daniel Bwala is a legal practitioner and a member of Lincoln's Inn, London. Thank you for coming on Sunrise Daily. Sunrise Daily will continue shortly. Do stay with us.